You have been assigned a small project and given the approved project charter. Now what? It's a small project, so you think, should I just get it done, or is there something else I should be doing? Here is a free piece of wisdom for projects and for life. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Now that you have let that wisdom settle in, let's start the project by developing a project scope statement. In developing the project scope statement, you will continue to flesh out the information provided in the project charter. As input, you will use the documented project charter and the input used in developing the charter, project statement of work, business case, agreements, environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The project scope statement is a detailed description of the project or product scope description, the acceptance criteria, deliverables, any project exclusions, constraints, and assumptions. The degree and level of detail can help determine how well the project team can control the project scope. At the same time, development of the project scope statement is a team activity, and the entire team's expert judgment should be leveraged. Let's first look at project or product scope description. The project scope statement progressively elaborates the characteristics of the product, project, or results. Progressive elaboration is an important concept to understand as your project moves through the execution process. As you work through the project execution, additional characteristics or requirements will evolve to improve the deliverable, either from the project team or customer. This is progressive elaboration. The key is to document the changes in the scope description through the project change control process. Now let's look at acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria are the key attributes that the product or project must meet to be accepted by the customer. The level of technical complexity of the product or project will determine the criteria documented. The criteria may include aesthetics, operating speed, overall dimensional measurements, and operational characteristics. Clearly articulating the acceptance criteria during the planning process will help to increase the level of customer satisfaction and prevent disputes during the project closing process. Close coordination with the project customer and stakeholders is critical when documenting the acceptance criteria. Now let's look at deliverables. While documenting the deliverables, or presentable aspects of the project, may seem simple, you need to work to manage customer and stakeholder expectations. While in a simple project there may be one product or project deliverable, in a more complex project there may be inter-project deliverables, such as product prototypes. In addition to the primary deliverable, there will be ancillary deliverables that need to be clarified with the project customer and sponsors. Ancillary deliverables may include project progress reports and what those reports will contain. When a new product is being developed, deliverables for product documentation and user manuals may be included. These deliverables need to be delineated and the acceptance criteria documented. Now let's look at project exclusions. Specifically documenting any project exclusions, or things kept out of the project, is all about managing expectations. The input to this area of the project scope statement may come from team and customer meetings. Any discussion of what is not included in the project needs to be documented, so it doesn't become an issue during acceptance or closing processes. For example, if the customer decides that they don't want the product user manual, the user manual should be listed as a project exclusion. Now let's look at project constraints. Project constraints are limiting factors that affect the execution of the project. These limiting factors can include project schedule or cost limitations imposed by the customer or other stakeholders. An example of a constraint might be that the project must be completed by a certain date. Finally, let's look at project assumptions. Project assumptions are factors that are considered true without proof. In documented assumptions, you need to document the effect on the project if they prove to be false. An example of a project assumption might be that the customer provides the project team with the necessary subject matter experts for each project phase. If that proved to be false, it would impact the project's success since it's dependent on the team receiving help from the subject matter experts. The project scope statement is a detailed description of the product, project, or results. Specific details contained in the scope statement are the progressive elaboration or additional characteristics or requirements that evolve to improve the deliverable, either from the project team or customer. The acceptance criteria, or the key attributes that the product or project must meet to be accepted by the customer. Deliverables, or presentable aspects of the project. Any project exclusions, or things kept out of the project. Constraints, or limiting factors that affect the execution of the project. And assumptions, or factors that are considered true without proof. The complexity of the project determines the degree and level of detail that needs to be included in the scope statement. The desired outcome is sufficient detail to prevent issues during the acceptance and closing processes of the project. Over the life of the project scope statement will be progressively elaborated as new information and criteria are developed. Changes to the scope statement are documented and processed in accordance with the project change control process. Remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.